Welcome to the Midlife Manifesto, where we are embracing the twists and turns and transformations of midlife. I'm Arlene Scholten, your host and fellow traveler on this crazy journey. So if you're looking to reinvent yourself, rediscover your passions, or just make sense of this beautifully messy phase of your life, you're in the right place. I will be interviewing experts on a number of different topics, anything midlife, whether it be your health, wellness, perimenopause, relationships, rediscovering yourself, new adventures, career shifts, raising teenagers, you name it. We're going to discuss it all right here. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's get real about midlife, because it's more than a phase. It's our time to thrive. We can do this together, so join me on my journey. It's crazy, but let's make it some fun. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Manifesto, where we are redefining aging. Today, I'm really excited to have Ali Mortimer on the call today. So Ali is, once upon a time, she was an IT consultant designing and coding retail systems to function better, and now she has turned into a life consultant, reprogramming minds and hearts to feel better. So her specialty and spaces she loves to work in to guide her clients and to places of peace and prosperity, whether in life, relationships, career, business, and or in health, by aligning with love, where they reclaim their own source of energy and feel fully alive in all that they do every day. So today we're going to dive in a little bit. We are going to share some of her journey and how she turned life around from PTSD, clinical depression, and a variety of mental health disorders. So we're going to talk today about about human design. So that's something that we talked about in one of the courses I did with you, which I found really interesting. So you are a generator line 3/6. I don't really know what that means. I don't know if any of the listeners do, but we're going to dive into this. With sacral authority, you are a serial entrepreneur, which anyone that knows Ali will know that, with many redirections and plot twists as she's gone through life. Lessons to heal that have led you to having a lot of adventure and a lot of fun. So that is Ali in a nutshell.
To all of that.
And we're going to dive right in. So to talk first, we're going to talk a little bit about human design.
Sure.
And so you did mine when I was doing the course.
You're a projector, aren't you?
I'm a projector.
You are a projector. I remember that. I mean, how many years ago was that? 3?
Probably.
I know.
I think, was it right coming out of lockdown, I think?
Yeah, we were in lockdown.
Were we?
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, it was a great course. And this actually, to anyone that's listening to my other episodes, which was highly functional females, so this rebrand came out of that course. And
it did.
It was when I had a one-on-one call with you, and
you
guys were like, this is more like a manifesto kind of thing, which it is. But yeah, I guess the strategy you said for me was to wait for the invitation. Signature was success, authority was splenic. And then the not self theme, which I don't really understand, was bitterness. So I'd love to understand what that means. Okay. And then you said it was of a specific manifestor as well. So can you explain to anyone who doesn't know anything about human design, what is it in a...
Yeah. I first had my human design read for me in 2021 by a coach that I was working with. And I think the only way I can describe it, it was like I was being given a guidebook to myself that I didn't know that I needed. And it gave me this full permission to be all the parts of me that I had either shamed, hidden, forgotten, or just lost. And it gave me that map, I suppose. I mean, the human design ultimately is a map, and it gave me the map to bringing me back to life, or bringing myself back to authenticity, or to myself, and just saying, I always knew that about myself. Why'd I, forgotten that that's who I was meant to be? So I'm a generator. I'm a line 3/6, and I'm with a sacral authority. So I'll go through that really, really briefly. A generator, and 70% of the population are at the core generators. So either generators or manifesting generators. We have this life force energy deep, deep, deep within us. We've got a sacral that's defined. That means we can literally light ourselves up as long as we're doing what we love, or find a way to do what we know we have to do in a way that we love it. So we can create this energy deep within us that can keep us going, a bit like a Duracell bunny. And generators have this one pure light. We're here to be the masters of something. You know, if we love it, we're going to want to know absolutely everything about it, and we want to bring it and do it all the time, and it's going to bring us so much joy and others so much joy. Manifesting generators, you're going to be more of the multifaceted. You're going to have lots of passions and lots of love, so it's more like a rainbow of light, and the more you do it, the more you light yourself up. So we have these defined sacrals that non-life force energy types can tap into. So you said that you're a projector, or we've remembered that you're a projector. So this means that you do not have a defined sacral. Now, that does not mean you don't have life force energy. It just means that your energy in life force is inconsistent, and you can't necessarily always spark that light in you. So projectors will love to be around generators and manifesting generators so that they can almost light the spark in them. It's like a you know, that bit of a touch paper. You'll be like, oh yes, and then you're off, and it will generate that energy within you. But as projectors, you just need to make sure that that energy is yours. So while it might be lit up by being around generators and manifesting generators, you have to practice huge amounts of discernment just to say, is that really mine? And purify that energy to keep going. So it's how we all complement each other. It's, you know, the energy type is how we show up in the world. So that's what I do as a generator. I'm lighting myself up. And the more I recognize that if I can live in alignment with what I love, which was so strange. I mean, you know my story, Arlene, but you know, back in 2014, when I left my corporate job due to burnout and just complete devastation, it was like, do you know what I'm going to do next in my career is not going to be the definition of success that I once thought it was. The definition of success that perhaps was conditioned into me by society or my parents, that it was about the big job and the big car and the big titles and the big paychecks and the big. It was all very, very labely. And it was like, do you know what? None of that has served me. And actually, at that point in time, I was about to go on this period of my life where I lost all of that. You know, I lost my job. Well, I didn't lose my job. I stepped away from my job. So it felt like I'd lost my identity as this big professional corporate person. I'd spent the last 20 years building up to being this big corporate professional, and I had to walk away. You know, my marriage had broken down at that point, so I'd lost my label as a wife. I'd lost my my health. I'd lost my mum, so I'd lost my label as a daughter. I'd lost all of these things, and it was really about understanding, okay, going forward, what is my definition of success? And in that moment, when I sat with my journal and I just wrote down, do you know what, my definition of success is loving what I do, loving who I do it with, and loving myself in the process. And it was just like, oh, it literally just came out of me, and I was like, right, that's my compass. That is what I'm going to go back to every single time when I ask myself, am I living out my definition of success? So when I heard my human design in 2021, when it was like, you're a generator, and as long as you're doing what you love, you will light up the world, you'll light up yourself, and you'll light up everybody else around you. I was like, boom, yeah, that is exactly right. I'm living out my definition of success without realizing it. And I'm living in alignment with my human design. So really understanding that energy type was really, really powerful for me, as I said, like coming home to myself. The next piece that, was shared with me was around my authority and my strategy. So this part of our human design is so powerful to help us understand our decision-making process. I work with so many clients who are like, I don't know which way to go. I don't know how to do this. I don't know whether I should go this way or whether I should go that way. Should I do this or should I do that? And they get stuck in this analysis paralysis or overthinking or get caught in that trap. So human design has been a really magical modality that I've brought into working with my clients to say you use your strategy and your authority. So my strategy is a generator, and anyone who is a generator or a manifesting generator, it's the same thing. Our strategy is to respond to what is shown to us. So we may not know the full path ahead. And that was one thing I could never see. I couldn't, I had vague ideas, but I couldn't see. I'm married to a projector, so he was a visionary like you. He could see where we were going, but I couldn't. So we worked so well together because he would give me things to respond to. He would be like, do you see us going here? Do you want to go here? Do you want to go that? Do you want to do that? Do you want to do this? And I'd be like, I would respond. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Yes, I do. No, I don't. And interestingly, my two children are manifesting generators and generators. So when I used to come to them and say, what does everybody want for dinner? They'd be just like, we don't know. And I'd be like, it's the worst question any mother can be asked. It's like, so I'd be like, right, guys.
Task. This is what you're having.
Yeah, exactly. This is what you're going to have. But when I could come to them and say, right, okay, supper, do you want fish or chicken? And they'd be like, chicken. So they're responding. So generators, we're going to give up, if we're not being given something to respond to in life, i.e. a fork in the road. Do you want to go this way or do you want to go that way? We can give those questions to ourselves. So I've learned the art of questioning myself, which has been really powerful. And the way we answer that question, the way we respond, is by using our authority. So my authority is, excuse me, is a sacral authority. So this is my sacral chakra. This is my gut feeling. It's this internal response of, I want to do that, or don't want to do that at all. And if I'm unsure, then I ask a different question. I refine the question. I turn it in a different way until I get that full-bodied response of yes or no. So there's lots of different ways in which you can respond. So using those two questions has led me on the path of, I don't know the full picture, so I'm just going to keep responding and asking questions and trusting in my gut response, basically. Yeah. Then the next thing was understanding profile lines. So our profile lines are often referred to as gifts in human design, but I like to call them almost like the leadership, the way in which you lead your life, the way I lead my life and the way you lead your life. So my leadership lines are line 3-6. I'm a double martyr. Yeah. So all of them there's 12 different lines that you can have, 12 different combinations, and they all mean different things. But when I saw mine as the double martyr, which looks like it's going to be like full of twists and turns and plot twists and adventures and, fuck ups and failure, when I looked at that and I could see it through the lens of, no, it's never been about that. It's always been about this continual learning and burning things down. I am literally the eternal phoenix. I will literally burn things down and create it again, and burn it down and create it again. But it's this, what I've recognized about myself is that, yes, I might dismantle everything, but in the ashes, I'll find the jewels that I want to rebuild it around it again. And that was such a powerful reframe to me, whereas previously so many people had been saying to me, you're changing again. What are you doing now? Yeah. Where are you going? I can't keep up. What are you doing? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's just
plot
me.
Twist. It's okay. Yeah.
And just seeing that written on paper was just like, that's how I'm meant to act in this lifetime. That's meant to be me. So helping people understand their human design and giving them the roadmap to themselves is just so powerful.
Where does it come from? Like, where does it originate
from? I can never say his name, but he was I can't remember his real name, but he was Ru Harugu, and I probably should know all of these facts and figures, but he was a journalist, and he went to Ibiza, as one does, to find himself. And he had this huge epiphany where it literally all came down to him. And it's the combination of so many different spiritual practices. So astrology and the I Ching and the chakra system and the solar system, it all comes in together, and it all came through to him in a channeled way, these different types and these energies, and how the energies flow within our bodies, and how we can maximize our energy so that we get the most out of interacting with the world. And it was in the 1980s, so it's not like an ancient wisdom, like many of them
from ancient wisdom,
but it is the collection of ancient wisdom. And I've often heard it described as understanding your energetic DNA. We have DNA in our bodies that makes us unique, and every single human design is unique, and it's based on the time that you were born, the location you were born, and your date of birth. And it all stems from, and why I love it, because it's like spirituality and science all in one. But it's the minute you come out of the birth canal, your physical body is imprinted by little particles that we can't even see, called neutrinos. And these neutrinos impact on our body and give us this flow of energy within our life. And they've now gone on to prove that these neutrinos are real things. They are the particles from the death of a superstar centuries and centuries and centuries ago that literally do that. So it really is just that the neutrinos hitting our bodies and how it shapes the energy and how it flows through our body and how we're going to interact with the world. And then the human design is the map to help you understand that. So you can understand what energy type you are, whether you are a generator, a manifesting generator, a projector like you, whether you're a manifestor, are brilliant innovators in the world, or are reflectors. You understand that, then you can understand your authority. So sacral like me, spleen like you, you're very, very intuitive. So while I have this guttural response. You're going to have these like in the moment freeze frame. I know this, I can't explain it, but we're doing that. It's almost like this. It's this, the spleen is the energy of intuition, of survival. So it's like you walking into a room and knowing, I know it's not safe for us in here. Let's get out. That kind of thing. It's a very knowing energy, intuitive survival.
Mhm.
Then you also have emotional authorities. So emotional authorities, both my boys and my husband are emotional authorities. And this doesn't mean that they make decisions from an emotional place. It's just recognizing that when they have a decision to make, it is likely to make them incredibly emotional, and bringing awareness to the fact that they can regulate their emotions. And once they've regulated their emotions, they will find peace, calm, and clarity. And in that clarity, they then tap into their defined centers, whether that be their sacral or their spleen or their G or their, whichever one they've got. So
Mm.
working with my children and my husband has been really powerful, just like saying, I know that it takes them a bit longer to get to a decision, whereas you and I are going to be like, yeah, my gut says yes. And you're going to be like, I know I'm going that way. I'm like, guys, we've got a decision to make. I'm going to give
Yeah.
you a moment and then you can tell me.
Yeah. I can see the huge benefit. Do you ever work with couples on this? Because I could imagine if you're, my husband and I are quite different, but it works. But I remember a few years ago, because I'm usually like flitting and all over the place, and he can just, he's in sales and he loves spreadsheets and all I find it all quite boring stuff. And I'm like, how can you just sit there and just get one thing done? Because we had no pair for a while, and her mom was over, and her mom described me, and it was really quite funny. She goes, one second she's doing this, another second she's doing that, then she's doing that, then she's washing a window, then she's cooking dinner. But it's interesting to actually, because I remember when you were talking, and I always wondered, why does my brain always come back to podcasting? Because I took a
You've got
long break actually, and you described it once as a projector, and you said you just want to be heard, and it was
Yeah, that's
really
right.
quite interesting. But I guess I wonder, do you ever do these profiles on people? Because I see my
Couples.
kids, and two of my kids are quite similar. The other one's very much like me. We're both middle children. I don't know if that makes any difference, but it's really quite interesting. And like you parent, you know that they're going to make a decision quickly, or you know how to present something. I can imagine as a parent, it probably helps keep some peace because you know
I,
how they work.
yeah. Well, as I said right at the beginning, in terms of human design, while when I first had mine, it was like being given this map and this guidebook to myself. When I took all my qualifications, I was just like, right, I'm going to do my husband and I'm going to do my children and I
Yeah.
want to get to know them. And the revelation that James and I were so radically different. I mean, he's a projector, he's a line 1-3, I'm a 3-6. I've got the gates and the energies of rhythm, which means that I never do anything on anyone else's timing. I do it on mine. And my husband is a line 1 and he wants everything structured. And he's like, right, it's 8 o'clock. What's for breakfast? It's 1 o'clock. What's for lunch? It's 6 o'clock. What's for dinner? And I'm like, I'm not even hungry yet,
Yeah.
and just understanding the friction points, but then just recognizing and being able to play back to him. We are so different. I think sometimes we can feel like we have to conform to be the same in couples, but actually, no, we really complement each other. And having done his design and him understanding mine and him understanding his, we've been able to say, well, you're the visionary and I'm the one who responds. I'm the one who's going to be doing this. You're the one who's going to be doing that. The same with the children. The minute I did theirs, I was like, of course, Willie's like that. My eldest son, he is a generator. So he's here to master. So one summer he was out on the golf course, hitting ball after ball after ball after ball every day down the road to the golf course. My younger son, Wills, he's a manifesting generator. So he's been interested in cooking one summer, then golf the next, then tennis the next, then now it's the gym. And it used to drive me insane until I realized that's just what he's meant to be here to
Yeah.
do. So the more I have brought this into my work in the last couple of years, outside of just helping people in terms of business, but helping them understand themselves in relationships, helping them understand their partners in relationships, helping them understand their children. I've even sat on Zoom calls with two
Hmm.
partners there and saying,
Yeah.
yes, well, you're going to do it this way and you're going to do it that way. Can you honor each other in this way? I've also then done people's human designs for their lives or for their business. And they've then come back to me and said, can you do all of my children? So I've done like
Yeah.
families where I've done all of the children and the husband, and then talk to them about how they can all interact with each other and how they can respect each other's energy. And you're so right. It just brings this level of harmony, because rather than fighting each other to be a certain
Yeah.
way so that you can all do it in the same way, it's saying, well, actually, he's the manager, and so he can go and do it this way. And you're the projector, so you tell us how we can do it better. You're the generator, you go do it. You're the manifester. What are we not seeing? How can we do this so wildly different? It's about understanding what questions you can ask, and then also how you can put different energy types into different roles, whether that be in your team or whether that be in your home. How you can encourage people, how they can make decisions, how you can guide them. It's fascinating.
Do you ever find it doesn't match?
What, two people together?
No, in terms of when you do somebody's human design, that the actual human design, that the because obviously when you sent me mine, it has lots of descriptive things on it.
Yeah.
Do you ever find, like when you told me mine, I thought, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Do I
Have
do
you
I find it
found
when
that?
people go, that makes no sense? Not yet.
Yeah,
They
no,
might not in the whole. And what I always say before, or when I send over someone's interpretation, I always leave a video recording, because they will have asked me, I want to use it in a certain way. So I record a video to do their interpretation. But I will always start with every video saying there is no right or wrong in human design. There just is.
yeah,
And it's a map, it's a chart. You can follow it as much or as little as you want. And I just read through the whole thing all in one go, and just really feel into the things that feel really good, that resonate with you, that you think, oh my goodness, yes, that's me. And if there's pieces in there that just say, well, that's so not me, just
yeah,
move on.
yeah,
Just, it's not right, not wrong. And in a lot of cases where people say that that's not me, like James said to when I first did my husband as a projector, and we talk about the projector, being on and off like the lighthouse. So you're outwards and then you're behind the scenes. And he was like, no, but I can keep going all the time. I can keep going all the time. I can get, that's just not right. And I was like, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just like, you will maximize your energy. What have you got to lose if you try it this way? Why don't you try being, and actually I watch him now, and even then reflecting back, he gets so much done, not because he's on all the time, but because he has these bursts of energy. He can be so focused for like 10 minutes, and he will probably get done in 10 minutes what most people will get done in an hour. And then for the remainder of that hour, he'll be mowing the lawn or doing something else. But it's
yeah. That
he
sounds very much
is
like me, actually. Yeah,
very much
yeah,
like you. It's like the tortoise and the hare example. It's like you'll do massive sprints and then you'll need to pull back and rest, and massive sprints. And it's not about getting more or less done. It's just about how you achieve the productivity in the best way for your energy.
yeah.
And that's the difference.
I can so see the merit, because what is divorce rate now? It's almost 1 in 2 in the UK. But I can see it, the merit and understanding. I mean, how many people fall into it? You get married and you don't really, I mean, even if you've been dating and courting for a long time, do you actually know each other? And then you throw a career and kids and a dog and a house and everything else in there. And actually, it's like you could be almost two strangers. I mean, sometimes we don't even know who ourselves in our 20s, which is when you usually get married, 30s.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so true. I also think, you know what, I had my human design done, what now, 2025, so it would have been 4 years ago. I still go back to it, because I think, well, you're talking about the midlife manifesto.
yeah,
We go through multiple lives in our midlife, I feel.
yeah,
Each year is a very different era, but sometimes even each month, each week, each day is a different era, and you feel different. And I'm like, what's going on with me right now? And it's often the first place I'll go and just say, right, where am I living out of alignment? What's causing me
yeah,
frustration? Where do I need to go? And what can I find in my human design that's going to give me that path back to peace or prosperity? It's just, how can I bring myself back? Oh, I need to clear up this energy. I'm living out of alignment with my sacral. I'm saying yes to the things I mean no to, and no the things I mean yes to. Or perhaps you'll feel it because you're overriding your projector energy, where you're literally on all the time without taking that moment to just take a step back. It's like, oh, the answer's there. How am I getting it so wrong? Let me go and have a look.
yeah. It's interesting because I think as a woman, sometimes you feel like you have to be on all of the time and just
Well, it's that
constantly
permission to
drawing.
rest.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that this morning, and I was thinking, I think we might be of the generation, and I can always hear my mum, what are you doing? Sat in front of the television. That's so lazy. Get up and do something. And so every
Yeah.
time I ever sit down, I can hear that voice. What are you doing? Get up, get outside, go and do something. And I do feel like there is that subconscious voice in our heads, whereas actually it's just like, do you know what? I've been at school all day, or I'd been out
Yeah.
busy all the time. I mean, goodness, even back then, children are always on. We would be like working all day, then I'd be playing lacrosse, and then I'd have a music lesson. Heaven
Yeah.
forbid I'd be allowed to just sit and do nothing for a minute.
Watch TV.
It's just like, so it's almost like that conditioning in me to say, I can't actually sit still. Whereas actually I've now been much, much kinder to myself to say, no, rest, just fully switch off, do nothing, do
Yeah.
nothing. And even more importantly, for someone like you as a non-energy type, it's going to be so important for you to refuel and allow yourself. And in that, it is doing, you're still doing something, you are doing rest. You are
Yeah.
doing replenishment. You are doing a refuel. And that might mean I'm just lying here watching Netflix, or I'm just lying here staring at the sky. It might look like I'm doing nothing, but actually I'm refueling my tank.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting actually about TV. My mom hated television. I mean, there was nothing ever on when I was little anyway, but
Yeah, they
nothing like
didn't like
today.
it. I
No,
know.
my nickname as a parent now from my kids, especially when they're younger, was actually the telly bin. Because I did. I was like, and then my husband would be like, they've just been at school and they've just played sport all day. They're allowed to watch a movie. And yeah, I was
Yeah,
always like, but you be doing something. It's interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
that was my nickname, actually. That's what the kids call me. And it was actually interesting. A few years ago, I actually sat down and watched a whole movie, and they're like, "Are you okay?" I wasn't jumping up and cleaning or doing something, putting something away. But no, it's
Mm.
been really interesting actually understanding that. And I was listening to, I don't know if you know Kathy Heller. She was interviewing somebody
Oh,
on,
I do.
what's that? Yeah.
I do know her name.
She's really interesting, actually. But yeah,
Yeah,
she was interviewing somebody on human design. She does it in the woman she was interviewing is in Australia. But yeah,
yeah.
really interesting stories. But
So
I'd
fascinating.
never heard of it before you spoke about it when I was doing your course. And actually, when you showed me mine, I thought, gosh, and it does, like you say, it kind of gives you a roadmap. I think in midlife too, like I don't know. It's a kind of trying to people sometimes say I'm just trying to find who I am and I don't know. I think you have to just go with what resonates with you. And society puts so many different pressures on us and we try to be somebody we're not sometimes. And I think sometimes in midlife, you know so much more about who you are, who you like to spend time with, what you like to spend time doing. And I think this is not a shortcut, but it almost helps you kind of reflect on I guess what it is that actually lights us up and gets us going. And like you say, as a projector, it's quite interesting what you say that, you know, you'll have these moments where you'll get loads done and then you need to stop because I have experienced severe quite burnout because
Yeah,
especially through what I was going through, which you know a little bit about,
yeah.
I never stopped. And then when it ended, it was like I just fell to pieces actually. And it took a
Mm,
long time because I think I didn't give myself time to rest because it was like millions of plates going on at the same time.
yeah. I
It's
think what you
interesting
said,
too.
you talk about, in midlife, there's this opportunity, to find ourselves, or women and men sometimes, I do think, they've lost themselves and they go off on this journey to find themselves. And I think they often look outwardly for that. And one thing that I have learned in losing everything, it doesn't matter what happens outside of you,
Mm,
is it's all within
interesting.
you.
Yeah.
And I do think it's more about this inner work to say, I don't think we ever really lose who we are. If we're really honest with ourselves, we know that. It's just that we're frightened or afraid of being that because of what society will say, or the judgments that people will have on us, or the fear that we will lose our partner. If we really come out and be who we really are, we're frightened that the people that we've made those connections with may not love us anymore. So we
Yeah.
don't. So we stay where we are. I don't know how much you know about Chinese New Year, but I've just recently found out that it's the Chinese New Year of the snake. And I love
Okay.
that idea because obviously the snake is an animal that sheds its skin, doesn't it, over and over
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
again to reform. And I think when we're talking about midlife manifesto, when we're talking about becoming this next version of ourselves, it's about shedding who we were in order to become who we're going to be next. And it's about being able to relieve ourselves of all of the systems and the thoughts and the beliefs and the patterns, the identity of who we were, in order to become this next version, and do it without shame or fear,
Yeah.
and just moving forward and just doing it as a really beautiful, delicate process and moving forward. So I think this energy of this whole year, as my understanding, I mean, that's just my interpretation of it when I heard about it, but it is this opportunity to just say, what am I shedding? What do I want to shed? What's no longer serving me? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And it's recognizing that all of the things that we've put in place to help ourselves survive, we don't necessarily need those anymore.
No, and it could hold us back too. You get into this
Hold
kind
you
of
back from
comfort zone.
thriving.
Yeah. Because you're never actually experiencing what actually is out there.
So if we come back to human design, one of the wonderful things about human design, or especially in the reports that I share with people, is all the questioning to say, what can I let go of? Where can I get back into this beautiful alignment with my energy and my truth and my purest form? So understanding where you're defined and undefined in your chakras. We have all of these beautiful energy centers throughout our body, and we're either defined, so we've got our own consistent energy, or we have them undefined, which means that they're not consistent, they're inconsistent, and we may need other people to, sorry, that was my father-in-law ringing me. Sorry. So whether we've got all of these defined centers or undefined, it's about understanding, how can I work with this energy, or what can I release in order to purify it, to make it my own?
Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about like parenting, because my daughter was a swimmer and she had to swim like 6 days a week. And I remember, especially in the summer, we love the coast, we love the beach. I think you do too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I remember like we'd be on the coast and my husband would like, we'd have to be back for swimming. It was like we were never, it was weird. I think my sense of being a parent was always more adventurous, and we love
Yeah.
holidays and we do adventure, but I think I do struggle with the monotony of having to be here, having to be there. You can never miss a session. I completely appreciate, you've joined a team and you have to train. I'm not, I'm all good on that. But yeah, I think it was just the routine. I like things a little bit more, I guess,
Fluid.
chaotic. Yeah.
Fluid.
Like I
Fluid.
want to stay at the beach today. I don't
Yeah. I don't want
want
to go.
to. I don't want to leave the beach right now. It's really interesting actually when you really reflect on how you parent a little bit differently.
Yeah. But
I'm
that doesn't
more
make it
like,
right
how
or
can we
wrong.
have fun? No, I know, but it's just
Yeah.
interesting. You never really think, and you think, I'm more like, how can we have more fun? And
Mm.
he's more, it's not that he doesn't have fun. I don't want to make it sound like that, but he's more structured in his life than I am.
The combination of two, I think, is a beautiful thing. I
Yes.
like to call it
Yeah.
frameworks to flow.
Yeah.
So it's lovely to have structure, but it's also lovely to have a structure to flow in.
Yeah.
So rather than routine, do you remember when we had babies and we had Gina Ford, who was like, at 8
I
o'clock
didn't
you would
listen
eat.
to her.
I read it once and I couldn't do it, but it
I
was like
couldn't
8
do it
o'clock
because
you
I had
will
heard
eat.
about her.
Yeah, eat toast at 8 o'clock. Breastfeed your baby at 8:15. Put your baby down for a nap at
Well, that's
8:22. And
probably
I
why
was
I
like,
didn't listen to her, because I was
ah,
like, no way.
no way. So,
I
but
was
some
like, we
people
don't have routine.
no. So some people love that, and that works for
Yeah.
them, and they thrive on that. But I loved the baby whisperer, Tracy Hogg, who gave me a framework to flow in, which was
Mhm.
wonderful. And it was called the easy framework. So it was eat, activity, sleep, and you time. So you would feed your baby, they would have an activity, and that might have been just changing their nappy when they're teeny tiny. Then they would
Yeah.
sleep, and you'd have you time, right? And then that whole process just expanded out, and that worked so well for me, and it worked really, really well for Tom. And I've always gone back to that. I didn't realize I did, but I've brought that
Yeah.
through into everything that I do. So it's never about time, as in I never have a restriction on my time, but I have containers. So
Yeah.
it's like saying in the morning, it's between 7 and 9. Sounds quite luxurious, but that's my time for me to prepare myself in order to come and work with my clients. So how can I get myself into the best way so that I can serve in the best way? Well, every single day, I'm not a routine person. I'm not someone who says, right, yoga at 7, 7:30, you'll have
Yeah.
breakfast. It's like, right, I've got 2 hours. And in that time, I probably want to do a bit of exercise. I want to eat something healthy. I need to get dressed. And you know what? I might do some meditation. So it's almost like this pick and mix of,
Yeah.
I have a framework of which I can flow in, and I can pick and mix what I want to put in it based on today. My son's been ill for the last 2 weeks. So that was, there was no chance I was going to do any form of hardcore exercise or anything, but it was
Yeah.
just like, I can still walk the dog. I can be gentle to myself. And how do I want to do and feel today? So I think these frameworks to flow, and I always remember, obviously she would always say, there's the champagne and the champagne glass. You
Yeah.
need both. You've got the container of the champagne glass, which is beautiful, but actually is pointless on its own. And then you've got the champagne, but you need the glass. Otherwise, you've just got champagne on the floor. So you want both. You want to be able to flow. So for you, it's about saying, I want these frameworks in order to flow. And if you're parenting, it's great to have one parent who maybe creates the framework and one parent
Yeah.
who says, right, how do we want to do this
Yeah.
today?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's mealtime. What do we want to do?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Oh, it's really interesting. I think every couple should actually do their human design before they get married.
I think that's
I
a great
I do.
idea.
I really do. I was having a conversation with my 16-year-old when I was driving back to school, and I was just kind of like, what sort of relationship do you want? Like when you're married, do you want your wife to work or do you want her to stay at home, raise your kids? It was such an interesting because these kids are coming. I mean, they've got there's so many different messages coming at them. And it was really interesting. At first, he was like, well, she needs to work. And I was like, really? I'm like, why? I said, what if you earn enough money and you can have a beautiful life and she can raise the kids at home with the values that you both share? And it was just really interesting conversation. And I think we get into relationships and marriage without actually knowing what the other person wants. And then there's just conflict after conflict. I mean, I love my career, but I do also think it's amazing when a woman can stay at home and raise their kids when they're young.
Oh,
I
I
think
agree.
it's, but I think it's also just understanding. Like, I think we got in, we got married. We didn't ever talk about anything really like that. Nothing really on a how do we want to structure our life. We talked about dreams and goals and things like that, but everything kind of just falls into place. Or
We
sometimes it doesn't.
we did actually in the church where we got married. The vicar, the reverend, I don't actually know what his title was, but we had to go to 4 or 5 different evening classes that talked about those sorts of things. Who's going to be the main provider? Who's going to look after the children? Really thinking about a lot of that. I can't remember a lot of it. The funny thing was, only I went because James was doing accountancy exams, so he couldn't go. So I was always the weird one on her own. I do have a husband, really.
You might be the only couple still married. Who knows?
Well, maybe it was because we did that we are still married. I don't
Maybe.
know. I think there's one other thing that I think is really, really important. And, I'll bring it back to human design, as that's one of the things that you wanted to talk about. My line 3-6, one thing that I have learned is that I'm giving myself permission to change. And I think we all can. So the question that you were talking about with your child there is about saying you might want that when you first start marriage. Like I look at when James and I got married, I was earning way more money than he was. I had a really strong career path and he was still finding his feet in what he
Mhm.
wanted to do. And then I was the one obviously who had the children, and he was the one who then was earning, the big money, and I was there looking after the children. And then I wanted to go back to work and then I didn't. And it's just about being able to say, just because you've set out on one path doesn't mean to say
Yeah,
that you can
yeah,
change your mind. And I've shared the stories before when we had some real tension in our marriage and I was moving out and I was taking the boys and I was about to sign on the dotted line to say that we were going to move into rented accommodation while we sold the rest of our houses and separated. And the minute I had to actually put pen to paper, I couldn't do it. I gave myself permission to change my mind. And I didn't know my human design at the time, but my sacral
Mhm.
was just saying, not this way, not this way,
Yeah,
not this way, permission to change. So I think, we're women, we're allowed to change our mind, but that doesn't
yeah,
mean
yeah,
to say that you can prove yourself wrong. If we look at the most obvious example is saying, once upon a time, everybody thought the world was flat until
yeah,
they proved themselves wrong that it's round. So it's about saying we can prove ourselves wrong. Just because you've been saying one thing for a long time, new science comes up or there's something else or you
yeah,
have a conversation with somebody else. And I love the fact that my son's just been on the debate team and I'm just like, so they can open their minds. It's like we can have these incredible debates. Prove me wrong or prove me right. I don't mind. Or, help me. It's not about convincing or proving, but let's have a discussion about what we know and let's form opinions about what
yeah,
we both know and come to our own conclusions. And when we've come to our own conclusion, honor each other for our conclusion. But you are allowed to change your mind. If somebody says something that says, oh, that landed in a different way. Now I get it.
yeah.
Permission
Now I
to
think differently.
change.
Yeah. Well, I've known you for when did I start seeing? I think I saw you in the lockdown. You were doing the what was it?
Heal
What
Yourself
was it?
Happy Hub,
Heal
was
Yourself
it?
Happy. I think that's the first time. And I think we know people through kids
Yeah.
and everything. So I think that's how I found you originally. And over the years, you've pivoted many times. And it is like what you said earlier. It's like, oh, and you kind of, I think it's giving yourself permission. It doesn't mean it didn't work. It just didn't
Yeah.
fit right. And I think that's one of the reasons I have no idea where this podcast is going to go. And I think it's sometimes just trying something because it feels right and actually just giving your
Yeah.
permission to try something new. And I guess children, because they're constantly doing different things, they don't put that, if they pick up a guitar, for example, it's not, they don't go, oh, what if I don't become a rock star? They're just trying new things because
Just try it
everything's
out.
new. Everything's
Yeah.
new. But
It's
as
going back to
adults,
that
I think we
childlike
put,
innocence.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost putting so much pressure on the outcome. But I mean, I've seen you, you've just pivoted. And I guess because now that, I understand your human design, it's like just giving yourself permission to go, oh, that doesn't feel right. I'm going to go and do this.
Yeah. Or like the shedding of the snake. It was like, it feels good right now, but actually now I'm just like, oh, it's feeling a bit itchy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
I need
fitting
to move
right. I
on.
need to
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
go. I'm going to try something else on, or go into a close up and say, I'm trying to try that coat on. Yeah, that feels good. Oh, but that might feel better. Let me go try
Yeah.
it with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's permission to play, permission to trial, to try. I mean, I was listening to Stephen Bartlett the other day, and he has a whole team on failing. It's like permission to fail,
Yeah.
permission to get it wrong, because actually, and when there was one of, you probably sat on the sidelines as well with your children. And I remember sitting on the sidelines with Tom, I think, and they'd been down doing a cricket tour down in Surrey, and they'd lost every single cricket match by 1 point. And they were gutted. You can imagine these 10-year-olds, 8-year-olds gutted.
Yeah.
And the coach was just like, do you know what, boys, I'm so proud of you. And you won't realize this now, but one day you will look back and you will realize how much more you've learned in these 3 games by losing than you would have done if you'd won all of them. And I think that's what Stephen Bartlett's trying to say. That's one thing that I love about my line 3-6 is I am learning so much more by trying and failing and
Yeah.
trying and learning and trying. And no, it's just like, I know so much more than the person who's just stood there and going, I'm only going to start if I know it's going to work out, or I'm only going to
Yeah.
start if it's perfect. It's like, just go try it and see if it goes, somebody, but oh my God, Ali, did you get it wrong? I'm like, no, I learned not that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit like this podcast. I was saying there's a girl who's just helping me a little bit. And I said, let's just put it out there because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I said, it is such a DIY podcast right now, but I'm giving my permission to just put it out there. And actually, I'm learning as I go. And it's really interesting. I'm connecting with amazing women. So
It's your dress rehearsal. It's dress
oh,
rehearsal for the big
yeah,
time.
yeah, we'll see. I wanted to, if you're okay with it, I just wanted to dive into a little bit about one of the challenges that you have
Yeah,
because I
sure.
do, you talk about it and it's part of your story. And I guess it's a little bit like what you just said about this science. Science evolves, and that's what I love as a chiropractor. Science evolves. So we do the best that we can with the knowledge that we have, but also to know
Yeah.
that, I mean, how many drugs have been recalled? They were at one point we thought they were safe, and now we know that they're not, and they've been discontinued. But I think it's a little bit as you get into midlife, this story has been going on in my life almost 50 years. And so it's interesting when you do let human design give yourself opportunities to maybe actually challenge this story we've been telling us for decades and decades, and actually just giving us ourselves permission to pivot, and
Yeah.
actually letting that shedding the skin like the snake, just maybe that's not real. Maybe those limiting to beliefs that we have about ourselves, maybe those stories, maybe they're just fabricated in our own mind and they're not real. Maybe we can actually be something bigger, different.
One of my favorite things to do is question all of the beliefs I have. So I like when I'm feeling a bit sticky, or when I've got that kind of like I'm feeling
Yeah.
I need to change
Yeah.
moment, it's just like, right, let me write down all of the things that I believe to be true about myself, all the things I believe to be true about my relationship, all the things I believe to be true about my business, or whatever I feel like is not fitting quite right. It's like, what are all the things that I believe? And then I will question every single belief. Be like, well, what if that wasn't true? And I learned that practice from when I had severe body dysmorphia. I never looked at myself in the mirror, and that was conditioning. I was the fat sister, I was the fat daughter, I had the fat gene. You're too fat to wear that, don't go out in that, that's so embarrassing, that kind of thing from my childhood. So I'd never been able to look at myself through with the truth. I always saw them through the lens of how my parents saw me, as the fat daughter. And there
Were
came a
you
point.
actually fat, Ellie? I mean, I've only known you slim.
I was chubby,
Okay.
but my sister was tiny. So
Okay.
I was in their eyes, I suppose. And so much had happened, and I'd separated from my husband earlier, and I always thought, well, it must have been because I'm fat. My immediate response must have been because I'm fat, which I wasn't. As you say, I haven't been in my adult life.
Yeah.
And I was starting my business, Heal Yourself Happy, and I knew I had so much experience to help people heal their relationships, heal themselves, find true happiness, all of these things. And the only way I was going to be able to do with that was if I got comfortable on camera. Em had said to me, Ali, if you want people to follow you, you need to be able to get that out on camera and be okay with being seen. So I was like, right,
Yeah.
things have got to change. So one of the things I did, I went to see an amazing energy healer to work through a lot of things, the loss of my mum, the trouble that I've been through in my marriage. But one of the things that we touched on was my image. And I said, I can't do this. And I think it's all because I'm fat. I'm unlovable because I'm fat. My mum always told me that I was the fat one, so I was unlovable. I think, my husband had an affair because I'm unlovable, because I'm fat. But I know that that's my belief, but I know it's not true. So how can we change it? And she said this one thing. She said, Ali, who would you be if you didn't have that thought? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know, because that's the thought I've always had, that I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat. Since I was 13, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat. I've always had that thought. She was just like, who would you be without it? And I said, I don't know. And she said, are you willing to find out? And from that moment, I said, yes, I'm willing to find out. So every time that thought came into my head, you're fat, you can't do that, I was like, I'll put that down. I'm choosing to believe that I'm not. I'm choosing to believe that I'm just me as a human without that thought. And that's where that process of, let me write down all of my beliefs that I believe to be currently true, and let me question every single one. And when I find that one that's feeling a bit sticky, who would I be without that thought? Let it go.
Well, there's an exercise for everyone.
I think, honestly, it's one of the most powerful exercises you'll ever do. But it's quite a deep introspection. If we go back to what we were talking about earlier about finding yourself, yourself. So just ask yourself who you believe you are.
Yeah.
And then go and find the ones.
Right. If either feels right or it feels wrong.
Exactly. Which is the one you want to take off? Which is the bit of the skin of the snake that you want to shed?
Yeah. I do think I've spoken to many women, and I know you're not 50 yet, but I've spoken to many women, and it's interesting. Most of them say their favorite decade is their 50s.
Yeah.
They say they're the
Well,
happiest.
I'm in my 50th year, and I'm actually really excited. I'm like, I must be one of the weird women who, I can't wait to say I'm 50. I keep saying I'm in my 50th year.
I do. I think your kids are older. You can start focusing on yourself. You can start, not that we didn't enjoy the time focusing on our children, but it's like another phase of life. I think it's quite exciting.
Yeah.
How did you, one of the big stories, and one of the things I first read about you before I'd met you is the affair that James had and the infidelity. How did you, I mean, obviously you forgave him and you've moved on and you've created a beautiful life. And I guess you probably think, God, it could have gone, had you signed that paper that day, you'd have a very different life right now.
Yeah.
And the kids would obviously be growing up in a
different way. Yeah.
Different
Who
way.
knows? You just don't know.
No, you don't know. And you don't know that it would have been terrible. It could have been equally as beautiful. But how do you, I guess, how did you deal? I mean, I guess one of the questions is you must have, because you say, even speaking to you before, I guess society tells us the right thing to do is to leave. And you must have been getting, I would assume, getting those messages from friends, family. How did you, because obviously you hadn't had your human design done at the time. How and why did you decide to stay? And how did you deal with the, I guess, the comments from people, possibly some thinking you're crazy, to move on?
I'll start with that question first. How did I deal with everybody else? I just thought it's none of their business. I'm going to shut them out.
Okay.
It's got nothing to do with them. The only people who need to be involved in this decision are primarily me.
Yeah.
Primarily James and our kids. That was it. And we had the most incredible marriage counselor. And we went there with the idea of just saying we are always going to be parents to our children. and we never want whatever's happened between the two of us to impact our love for them. And we never want to be one of those awful couples who pitch their kids against each other. That's just, this has been an awful situation, but that's our primary reason for us to be able to be in the room and to be able to continue to parent our two beautiful sons.
Yeah.
And then through that process, she guided us in such a wonderful way. We guided ourselves. I mean, we were fortunate enough. Well, we made the decision to say we're going to invest our time and our money in couples counselling and in individual therapy to heal, to work through our own stuff, to find out why we got where we are.
Yeah.
So the first thing was it's nobody else's business. And yes, it was awful. There were a lot of people who told us, you have to stay together. You can't stay together. And it was just like, it's none of your business. Thank you. Just, and from that, we were quite ruthless. For anyone who had an opinion, we let them go. For anyone who came and just said, we love you, whatever you need, we're here for you, they were in our circle. Yeah. So that we were quite brutal in that.
I guess that's probably what's allowed you to be quite public about it, because it was your decision and it has nothing to do with anyone else. And
it's got nothing to do with anybody else. I'm asked that question a lot, Arlene. How did you and how do I? And I think my simplest way of explaining it goes right back to when everything had happened. I was obviously ultimately heartbroken, completely and utterly devastated, in a very, very dark place. That was my diagnosis of PTSD, clinical depression. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't think. It was such a shock. I had no idea what to do. And in those moments of when I lost everything, because I really did feel like, as I said, we cut a lot of people out. I felt like I'd lost a lot of people. I'd recently lost my mum. I had recently left my career. So it was like the breaking down of absolutely everything except me and the boys.
Yeah.
And in that dark, dark space, I had a lot of time to just be. I think that's the only thing I could literally, I had the energy to get my boys to school, and I would come back to bed and I would just lie in bed, and then I would get up and I would get my boys and I would feed them, put them to bed. And then I was in this state of shock, I think, for a really long time. I don't remember an awful lot of it, but during that period of time, I suppose I'd learned to meditate, or what people call meditation. But to me, it was just stillness of bringing myself into the present moment, because I just could not understand the past. Or anytime I went back into the past, it caused me so much pain. It was suffering, and I chose not to suffer. And I couldn't think about the future because it was just too unknown, too big a question to try and understand. So the only place that I could be would be in the present moment with myself, with my breath. And I would just focus on that, which ultimately is what I now know to be meditation. I just didn't know it at the time. Yeah. And I would just keep bringing myself back. And that was so powerful, because in those moments, I would just almost be quite lucid. I think I went into transcendental meditation, and it was very, very clear to me that in that moment, all I wanted to be was happy. So rather than focusing on a thing or an event, it was just like, I want to focus on being happy. It was a feeling. I want to feel happy. So many of my clients come to me and I'm like, what is the feeling you want to feel? I want to feel peace. I want to feel joy. I want to feel happy. Whatever it is, it's up to that person. To me, it was, I want to be happy. I want to be happy. And I would just sit and lie there just being happy, because nothing changed around me. It was all a shit show, but I could still feel happiness. I could be like, right, I'm going to remember this time when I felt happy. Oh, that was happy. Or I can just feel the feeling of happiness in my body. And it was like this compass revealed itself to me to find my way to being happy. If I focused on happiness as the middle of this compass, and I explain it to people now, it's just like, if the pinpoint in the middle was happiness, the compass, I needed to bring everything in alignment to it. I had to bring my head into alignment with being happy. I needed to bring my heart and my emotions into being happy. I had to bring my soul into being happy, and I had to bring myself into being happy. It was like this beautiful compass that I kept going around, and it has formed like the formation of everything that I teach and help people with. It was how I healed. It was, I brought my head into the game. It was like, how can I use this? How can I reflect on what happened? How can I regulate my emotions? How can I actualize myself? That, who am I? We've talked about it so many times through this podcast. Who am I? I know who I am. Let me find out who that is. And then the loving myself, the learning about myself, the looking after my physical body in that time when I couldn't eat and I couldn't sleep. It was like, okay, well, how can I make sure that I look after my human body so that I can be the best for my children, and so that when I am happy, I can actually embrace it. So it was this continual cycle around head, heart, soul, self, head, heart, soul, self. I just kept going round and round this compass until it was like almost like gave me that mission. My mission was to be happy. Okay, I just need to keep bringing every single part of my psyche into being happy. And every single day I was like, right, well, how can I bring happiness into my day? How can I bring happiness into my day? And I started to bring pockets of happiness into my day. And I've now read the science behind it, that just being happy, that my joy list, I wrote a joy list, I've got it in my drawer, was just like, be in nature, read a book, eat some chocolate, cuddle the dog, kiss my
Yeah.
kids, ring my dad. And all of those things on my joy list, what I didn't realize was bringing me this dose of happiness. And
Yeah.
this dose of happiness was the dopamine of ticking something off the list. It was the oxytocin of being bonding with my children. It was the serotonin being outside in nature. And it was the endorphins of meditating or eating chocolate. So this dose that I was giving myself was flooding my body with hormones.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. So I was doing a spiritual thing that gave me the scientific,
Yeah.
which was exactly the same as human design. It's science proven, also it's spirituality proven with science. So everything I do is this beautiful blend and balance of wonderful, energetic, spiritual work, but with very, very deep practical elements to it. But ultimately, that's how I did it. That answer
Just
your
one step at
question?
a time. Yes. Yes. No, I mean, there's never going to be a short answer to that, is there?
No,
No.
no.
And I guess it's a consistent, it's constant. You say you have a 7 to 9. 7 to 9 is your kind of your
Yeah.
time, which is
It's
quite,
my time to bring myself. And again, that 7 to 9 is that compass. It's interesting to recognize how much I use it. But
yeah,
in that 2 hours, it's like, okay, how can I bring my head into the game? And that
yeah,
might be one day, some meditation or a visualization or just some stillness or some
yeah,
journaling. How can
yeah,
I get my head in the game? The emotions, how am I feeling today? How do I want to feel? Maybe I'm
yeah,
feeling angry because I'm in perimenopause and I don't know
yeah,
where this anger has come from, but let's just go and regulate that
yeah,
by
yeah,
going to do some shadow boxing today.
yeah,
And then we look at my soul. What is my soul telling me to do today? Where is my soul leading me? What do I want to bring into the world today? What's my soul's mission? It's to bring joy. Okay, how do I want to do that? And then myself, well, myself is my human body, and I'm going to look after it to the best of my ability, because you and I both know that the health is foundational to
yeah,
everything that we do in our life. So
yeah,
it's like, okay, so that 2 hours in the morning is really getting my compass in alignment with what I want to do, which is my soul's mission to bring joy to the
yeah,
world. So head, heart, soul, self, head, heart, soul,
yeah.
self.
Yeah, there's how many books on Amazon on morning routine?
Oh God, don't give me the word routine. I'm just like, I don't want to do
Sorry.
that.
Have you ever tried the there was when was this? About 2 years ago. An app, it's called 75 Hard. Have you ever heard of it? It's
Oh, that
obviously
just
developed.
sounds,
It's awful. It is awful. So I tried it because I thought, I've got to
what
go,
is it?
go, 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 go. It's awful. So I tried it. I didn't last very long. It's 75 days. It's
Yeah.
designed by a man, and I might get some of this wrong, but there's a number of different things that you need to do. And at the end, you need to take a picture of yourself, almost like, I think it's almost like a shaming thing so that you can start seeing progress. But you have to do, I think it's two 75-minute workouts a day. Um,
What?
yeah, it was crazy. And I was like, how on earth do women do this? So I knew a chiropractor did it in Australia, but she did it in lockdown. So she wasn't totally, and I don't think she had kids. So um, you have to read 20 pages in a day, which I thought was great. You have to drink a certain amount of water, which I thought was brilliant
It's
because
fine.
I'm quite bad with water. But there were a number of different things. So the reading the water was great, but it was the two workouts. And yeah, it was really quite hard to
That's
do.
brutal.
I know. And then I kind of got mad at myself because if you don't do one of the things, it starts you back from scratch. It's probably how you keep paying for the app for years and years and years because I don't
Yeah, I'm sure. Do you know what? One thing that I have learned when it comes to my body, and you opened up this podcast, about talking about the midlife manifesto, aging gracefully. One of the biggest things that I've learned in terms of my body is that you will never change your physical self by loathing, by hatred, by
Mm,
shaming
yeah.
yourself. Because in the moment when I lost all of the weight through a really tragic period of time, and that's happened twice in my life, standing in front of a mirror when you're practically skeletal, I still thought I was fat because my mind had been conditioned in such a way to only ever see myself as fat, to hate myself. So it didn't matter about what I physically looked like unless my mind was changed.
Yeah.
So if you can start to love on yourself, and I teach a lot of my clients to do this, who come to me around, loving themselves and wanting to lose weight, it's just like, yes, we can do all the practical things that we can do in order to help your physical body, but actually it won't matter, because if you drop 3 dress sizes and you haven't taught yourself to talk to yourself in a nice way, it's going to make not a blind bit of difference. So while we're looking at what you eat and how you exercise and how you rest and how you sleep, I also want to get into your mind and give you the tools that are going to help you drop that thought. Who would you be without that thought? It's like, how can I love myself more? How can I look in the mirror and love on myself and love what I see, so that when my body changes, you've got the 2 channels there already. And that's why people yo-yo diet, because they'll lose the weight, they hate themselves anyway. So then I might as well just eat. You've got to do both.
Yeah, it's interesting because in midlife, you start noticing different things change. Everything's going south and everything's changing, isn't it? But it's like what you say, it's interesting. You have to love yourself through these changes. And I think that's what we see too. I interviewed a woman from the Coppergate Clinic, and we were talking about like injections and Botox and aging. And she goes, people are still trying to look 30 when they're 50. And she goes, it looks weird. It looks weird.
Yeah.
You're supposed to age. It's a little bit like all this HRT and hormone therapy, which I'm not anti, but they're trying to make a 50-year-old woman hormonally similar to somebody in their 30s. And so you're taking all these estrogen but you're supposed to have age appropriate hormones. We're supposed to have age appropriate skin, age appropriate everything. And I guess we now have tools to try to, dramatically alter that, not, naturally and artificially, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting what you say about just loving yourself through these changes as well. It doesn't matter what you do to the external self if you're still, that self-loathing is still going on.
There were 2 thought processes that helped me massively with the whole aging process more recently. Number 1 was I lost a very, very dear friend of mine who I knew from the age of 10, and she died very suddenly with pancreatic cancer. And it just brought into me, it's just like, oh my God, I'm still alive. I don't care what my body looks like. I am alive. And I will look after it to the best of my ability. And it doesn't matter if I've got slightly turkey neck or I've got aging hands. I am still here, able to hug my children, go on a whitewater raft, sail off into the sunset and drink champagne. I'm physically still here. So while my body is here, I will love on my body, no matter what it does, right? The other thing was that my gorgeous stepmom, she had a stroke in January of last year. And she just said to me, she said, oh, I wish I had my 50-year-old body.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. And here's me thinking, I wish I had my 20-year-old body. I was like, thanks for the reframe, Edna. Yeah, I'm really lucky I have a 50-year-old body. And, it's those simple reframes of perspective.
Yeah.
How can I love what I have right now? Those 2 things help me love where I am now in this moment. So that in one day when I'm 90, I look back and go, oh my God, I had a rocking body at 50.
Yeah. It's interesting because we were skiing at Christmas and I thought, I need to love this now because in my 80s, I still hope I'm still skiing, but I'm not going to be going as fast as I am right now. And it does put it into perspective. Like this age is actually, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing. We're so lucky.
We are so lucky to almost be 50.
We are. Hallelujah.
Anything you would, I guess you kind of touched on some of the challenges in midlife. What would you say to your younger self? We're talking about being young again, but I guess J.K. Rowling said, she goes, some people have to hit rock bottom. I mean, you've discovered, you were working in IT and now you're doing something totally different. Do you really think you'd be doing this stuff had everything not happened?
No.
No.
But I know that in that dark space, I remember very clearly a quote that just said, you've been given this mountain so that you can show others how it can be moved. And I was like, okay, let's do this.
And I think we're in a time right now that, resilience is almost not praised. And I think I had my parents were war babies. And I think it gave me strength, even when I went through what I went through in 2017. I just
Yeah.
thought, you know what? And dear friends of ours, they lost their son to cancer at the age of 7. And I guess, I just what they went through and just the resilience they showed. And then, just seeing my parents and hearing some of their stories from, them growing up. And, my mom lost her father. And it was just, I think we forget sometimes, and those are all hearing other people's stories. I guess it's, even yours going, hearing how you've gotten through it and you've created a beautiful life. Hopefully that inspires people when they are rock bottom, because you can climb out of it and you can, life can still be beautiful. Like you say, we are alive. We have the gift
Yeah.
of life and to live.
When you're at rock bottom, the only way is up.
Yeah. There is a quote from Winston Churchill, and he goes, "Just keep buggering on."
Keep buggering
And
on.
he actually struggled quite a lot with depression, and
Yeah.
he just said, "Just keep moving, just don't stop."
Yeah.
Just next foot forward.
And probably that's what I would say to my younger self. No matter what you're faced with, you'll be given the tools in order to overcome it. And I think actually maybe an even better one would be you're going to be given what you need in order to get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Leaders are bridges and bridges are tested. It's just like understanding that if you want to get somewhere, sometimes you need to be given the harder thing to
Yeah.
do in order to give you the strength to actually experience what it is that you want. So
Yeah.
in the process of manifestation, sometimes you'll manifest the contrast of what you want first in order to give you the strength in order to be able to hold what's coming.
Yeah. They talk
I
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say I recall a time when I was sat down. I was just like, do you know what? In my marriage, I was just like, oh gosh, this just feels so hard at the moment. I love my husband, but do I like him? Do I like what I'm going through at the moment? It's exhausting. I'm working so hard. I never get to see the kids. I don't get any sleep. And it was like the universe just went, okay, let's get rid of it all then. I was like, oh,
I want it back.
can I
It's
have
like
it back?
Home Alone. It's like Home Alone.
Yeah.
I don't want my family. Oh, wait, maybe I do.
Yeah, exactly. And I had to experience the loss of everything in order to create it and build it back stronger. And I've taken that in my line 3/6 as a human design to say, let's keep going. Let's just burn it down, create it again. The eternal phoenix, the snake that sheds the skin, but just keeps on going. And that's okay.
Of course it is. Yeah, I think it's time to celebrate resilience. I hope we've given it to our children, and it sometimes has to be hard, you know.
Yeah. Hard isn't always bad.
They talk about hermetic stresses in health, in biohacking, and hermetic stresses are like your ice plunges. It's short, so you don't get hypothermia, but it's
Yeah.
enough to get your body going. Same
Yeah.
thing with hot
Kickstart.
saunas. They get like saunas, they extend lifespan apparently. It's like intermittent fasting, breath holds, breath work, things like that. And I guess they are hermetic stresses. They're not enough to kill you or to cause harm, but they make us stronger. And I guess
Yeah.
that's the same with these, nothing in
Life.
life is linear. It's, you just, yeah, there's going to be knocks. It's not a linear line.
No.
And I guess, you might get through one thing, get ready, enjoy the boring bit because there's another one coming. It's right around
There's
the
another one
corner.
coming. And what did you say? As what good old Winston Churchill said, just keep buggering on. Just
keep buggering on.
Keep buggering on.
Yeah.
On that
Good
note.
man. He's a good man. Keep buggering on, everyone. I want to thank you so much. It's been absolutely lovely to have you on the podcast. Thank you for your time. We will put Ali does private coaching, one-on-one coaching. She also has courses, a lot of courses actually. I've done many of them. They're very good. So we'll put all Ali's details in the notes. And please get in touch with her. And please share this podcast if you found it helpful. And subscribe if you can. And have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.